congratulations on this album. I've sat down and taken a listen to it, and it is absolutely stunning. So congratulations.
Thank you so much for the kind words. Thank you.
Not a problem. So, mate, tell us a little bit about how you guys were able to work on so much music while the world was in lockdown, because I just find that amazing.
Honestly, it's a lot due to advancements in technology over the last few years with things like Dropbox and Zoom, and like recording DAW software sort of coming to a place where it's, easier to use and things are more refined than maybe they were 10 years ago. Or even, it was funny, I was talking about this with somebody where I said, I don't know that this would have even been possible 4 years ago.
Yeah.
Just where technology was and whatnot. But honestly, it's half to do with that, and a lot of it is to do with how important communication is and our interpersonal relationships, not just as a band, but as people. How much we value that and how much we put into maintaining, cultivating, and growing that. So the fact that we all love each other, the fact that we love the creative process, the fact that we all love the hard work and dedication that it takes to undertaking a task like that, it was just sort of the technology caught up, and we were able to utilize that.
Was that something that as a band you talked about from the very start when you heard that the world was going into lockdown and that you wouldn't be able to tour and wouldn't be able to get into the studio? Was that something that you talked about let's work on music from the very start, or was there that kind of thought at one point of let's take a break and recharge the batteries?
No. I mean, for us, funny enough, we actually got started on this whole process before people were even saying COVID. Before any of the lockdowns, we were on Zoom working on music together. It just so happened that sort of solidified what the future was going to be like as far as producing the actual album rather than getting together in songwriting and doing pre-production. So we were a little bit ahead of the curve in that way. For us, being in the studio is the vacation. Like that, to me, I think to all of us, that is the most fun part about being in a band.
Yep.
For us,
yep,
is being in the studio and the idea that something that didn't exist at the start of the day now exists, and we've put a tremendous amount of our lives, of our experiences, of our emotions, and of ourselves into this thing.
Definitely.
And it not only is an experience that is like super rich in camaraderie, but just the actual creative process and what it means to be creative just in general. It's something that we all deeply enjoy, and we always look forward to doing it. So for us, that is the vacation. For us, it's usually that's the vacation from a 200-day touring schedule out of the year,
Yeah.
So when it really became evident that the world had changed, and that it was always going to be changed, and that we didn't really know when there would be live shows or anything else, that was kind of more that was when the conversations for us started about Twitch and utilizing that entire platform to connect with our audience, because we knew that we weren't going to be able to do that in the live realm. But yeah, we had already been working on music. We'd already been working on what would have been the first EP. And we had basically finished all of the writing for it maybe a week before the first 2-week lockdown had happened.
Yeah. That's amazing considering some of the topics that your lyrics explore on this album as well. Like, the lyrics feel absolutely perfect for people reflecting on human connection and things like that. Tell us a little bit about what was actually influencing your lyrics when you sat down to work on this album.
It was that. It largely was, I believe that our duty as musicians is to live, to observe, and to report,
Yeah.
And I felt like when we basically lived the same way, doing the same thing for the better part of a decade, doing albums every year and a half or two, doing a few hundred days on the road, rinse, repeat. And then all of a sudden everything sort of stops. And there's a little bit of reckoning kind of when the merry-go-round starts to slow down and it slows to a stop. And then you really not only think about where you are, but you think about where you are in terms of where you've been and in terms of where you come from. And it sort of opened up a Pandora's box of unlimited time to sit back and reflect on all of the existential dilemmas that we as human beings think about. And that common thread of singing about the human experience or writing about the human experience as a form of connection, that didn't really make itself known until we were able to really sort of listen to the whole album as a whole album and then reflect back and think, what were we really saying? But you nailed it. It's all about sort of how the human experience of today is really just an echo of the original human experience, and how the most beautiful parts and most tragic parts of what it means to be human are usually in events that are very deeply and inextricably linked. I think age has a lot to do with it too. We're all in our 30s now, and you become more cognizant of your own time here.
Yeah.
And the idea of 100 years when you're 10 years old seems like forever. 100 years, that was forever. But when you're 33, you're already a third of the way there.
Yeah.
And 100 years is pretty short.
Yeah.
And so, and for me personally, I had a lot of those moments where I was just really trying to reconnect with my own humanity, what it means to be a person, not what it means to be a musician or an entertainer or any of that, but what it just means to be a human being, and the gift of the ability of creation, of just something didn't exist and now it does. And I think it was just a lot of time to sort of think and reflect in a world that had largely stopped. And I think we felt like a lot of people were probably having those conversations, and that was also a huge reason why we really wanted to release music shortly after we'd finished it. We never sat on anything for too long because we wanted to be able to share our human experiences while we were still living them, instead of writing about something, pouring yourself into something, and then having to wait maybe 6 months to a year while you get the rest of it done, and then you share it, and then you sort of move on from that. But we felt a very, very deep connection with our audience, being able to share ourselves and our emotions and our experiences in what could be considered as close to real time as possible.
Have you had many of your fans reach out to you and say that listening to these tracks have made them stop and think during the lockdown? Because I know for a lot of people, the lockdowns have been probably almost the most traumatic thing they've been through in their lives. I know here in Melbourne, we were in lockdown for 240 days over an 18-month period. And I think we all thought about things that we'd never thought about before. Did you have many fans reach out to you and talk about how they were feeling and how they were relating to your lyrics?
So many. Fans, journalists, other musicians. They're all humans. They're all human beings. I think what you do in today's society is so... I feel like people I'm trying to think of how to concisely put this. A lot of people's identities revolve hugely around what they do. And when you don't have that, you still have yourself to look at in the mirror every day. And what does that mean? What does it mean to be a human? What does it mean to be human?
Yep. And was that part of also why it was so important for you guys to embrace Twitch and be able to reach out to your fans? Because you would have known that your fans were doing it tough, and for some of them, maybe even knowing that you guys were going to be on Twitch that night would be what would get them through that day. Was that something that was important to you?
It was. And for two reasons. That was always the hope, the hope is that when you honestly express yourself and you really put 100% of yourself into something, the hope is always that somebody would hear it and understand it and would feel, feel seen and feel heard and feel understood. And the second part of that is I need those things. I want to feel seen, and I want to feel heard, and I want to feel understood. Just as a person, I think all people long for that.
Yeah.
And it gave us something to look forward to every day. It gave us that same connection, So however we felt like our fans could benefit or not, a lot of that we selfishly did for us because we wanted that connection with people and we wanted to have something to look forward to,
Yeah. Has this changed things, do you think, for you guys as a band going forward? Like, have you learnt something from being able to record this way and being able to self-produce, but also being able to do online shows? Is there any part of that you guys would embrace for the future?
100%. I think it's sort of akin to, you have your main ship that you're always cruising on. And this, if anything, was sort of an exercise in testing our life raft.
Yep.
Ideally you don't want to have to get in it, but there is a sense of security, and maybe it's validation, but it's hugely intrinsically rewarding for us to know that worst case scenario, we can go. We went a year and a half without seeing each other in person.
Yeah.
It wasn't until a few weeks ago that we actually all got together. It was almost 2 years, and we still made a record.
Yeah.
And we still fulfilled what we felt was our duty and purpose, which is to create music and to try and connect with people and to try and connect people with people. And we just did that to the best of our abilities. Now, that being said, I would like to never be in another one of those situations where it has to be so. But I also, if I've learned anything, it's that, you can plan for 10 years in the future, but you can't plan 10 minutes in the future.
Yeah.
So come what may,
yeah.
But we will, we know that no matter what, we will always turn to music. When there is something that we don't understand or we can't comprehend or we can't write in a concise way, that we will always turn to writing music, and we will always be able to get the way we're feeling out into, just out. Just get
Definitely.
it out.
And how are things there now for you guys? Are you able to get out and do shows now? I know here that things are starting to open back up, but we've got this kind of threat of Omicron variant over our heads now, and I think everyone expects another lockdown. How are things there for you now?
Yeah, as far as I know, there's shows and tours going on. For us as a band, we're not, we don't have anything on the books stateside. I think our first shows back are scheduled for next summer in Europe. So, God willing, we'll be able to do that. Knock on wood. But, yeah, it's hard to say.
Yep.
I would like to think that I can plan for the future, but I know better.
Definitely.
And the other point is, shows are supposed to be a place where people go as a form of release, and I think that it's, while it's still a point of contention and a point of concern and a point of stress, it doesn't really accomplish what it's trying to unless everyone feels like they can go and be safe and have fun. So we definitely miss it, and we look forward to it, but we also don't want to rush it, not for ourselves or for our families or for our fans. So we'll see what the future holds, but in the meantime, we've just been working on new music and just staying creative and connected.
Definitely. Well, mate, it's been an absolute honour chatting to you. And to finish up, what would you like to say to all of your fans out there before they sit down to take a listen to this album?
That it was made for anybody that's been feeling those feelings of just where do I fit into the universe? Where do I fit in as a conscious being that has the ability to create?
Yep.
Everybody that I've talked to today has said that at one point or another they've had those conversations with themselves, and I feel like everybody has. And my hope would be that somebody out there could just feel heard and feel understood and feel connected.
Definitely.
Just knowing that somebody else out there has gone through the same thing or is going through the same thing. And as far as I'm concerned, we've accomplished that, and anything else that happens now after that is just blessings.